All right.
So, yeah, my name is Quinique. I'm a registered nurse. Started my career off in Richmond, Virginia, then to College Station, Texas, and then out here to Aurora, Colorado. Been a nurse now going on 8 years, background in critical care and trauma, and now a cannabis nurse and a social activist in the community.
Wow, that's a resume. That's a resume.
A little bit. We still working on it, guys. Still got plans. You know, I love the Lord, and it's what has kept me across the U.S. practicing as a nurse, as a black nurse, working critical care and trauma. There's not many of us. We stick out like sore thumbs, and we definitely got targets on our backs.
So you're a black nurse.
I am.
You're a black nurse, and you've been out here practicing in Colorado for.
So came out here in 2017. Then I went into ICU. That's what I do. That's what I did. And I was out here for a couple years. So being out here, I was a 3-time Daisy Award nominee in less than 2 years, and featured here on the news here as Denver's own neighborhood nurse. Big advocate for CPR. Still big advocate with American Heart Association, did public speaking. It's very important that we know CPR, but I started just going around teaching my neighbors for free. You know, if we are not supposed to be loving our neighbor as ourselves, why should I know a life skill and someone next door doesn't? And it came about when there was a tragedy in the former neighborhood that I used to live in, and they just didn't know CPR. And I was like, you know what, I'm new here, but I'd be darned if I receive another patient in my neighborhood that doesn't know CPR, and that's, you know, so real big advocate of that. And then also a cancer caregiver. My ex-husband had stage 4 sporadic Burkitt's lymphoma, and that's what brought me out here and then into cannabis nursing.
Okay. So Colorado's the percentage of black people in Colorado is real small.
Very different from what I'm used to.
Yeah. So whenever I come across woke black people, I always ask them, what's it been like for you living here in Colorado? And so since you're a nurse, what's it been like for you as a nurse out here in Colorado?
You know, I would call it blanketed racism. You know, at least back in Virginia where I was from. I was raised in Stafford County, Virginia. At least I know what to do or how to communicate with an upright racist. Here, the culture is they feel as if that they're so I don't know what the word to use it, but they're not as advanced as they think that they are. There is a lot of systemic racism that exists, especially in the culture of nursing, where as a registered nurse, there's not very many of us, especially in a specialty field. You understand, in a hospital setting, you have your registered nurses, and then you have your CNAs, like your techs, and then you have environmental services. Those are supportive roles or ancillary staff roles. And those are the roles that they are accustomed to seeing us in, not necessarily in the lateral role of working with them as a registered nurse or even in nurse leadership. As someone that was working in one of the hospitals in the local area, you know, it definitely lacked diversity, and it still does. You know, the population of nurses does not match the population of people of color here. The ratio doesn't match. I know as a registered nurse that's from the South that has been practicing across numerous of states, know that there's a different level of trust in a hospital setting where I can get information from someone that is of the same ethnicity as myself. I mean, they're not going to feed that information to a white person. Just not, because there's a lack of trust, and that's totally fair due to the history of this colonized nation. So then, with that being said, what would you say that the difference between your interactions with patients versus the interaction with staff has been for you, as far as as far as tension or lack of tension? I did have a situation. My negative situation that I had with a patient was a patient's family member who accused me while working care for her dying loved one, of going into her purse somehow and using her credit card and purchasing a stethoscope for myself somehow, and she informed the hospital of this. You know, glory to God ahead of my life that I was given the spirit of power and love and a sound mind, because, you know, all I could do was pray for stuff, people like that. But those type of, she made it difficult for me to work, and then had to be spoken to and investigated by HR, and then limited to working to one section of the ICU in order to accommodate the patients, families, whatever she had against me for whatever for that duration of time. But literally, that was my negative interaction with a patient or a patient's family. For the most part, you know what? To be honest with you, I love nursing and I love taking care of people. My goal is, before I go in, and I would pray and ask God to use me as a vessel, you know, to keep families together. You know, I knew what it was like as a caregiver and having my own personal situation, you know, watching then my then ex-husband, you know, almost die, you know, from cancer, and just watching that. Then to me, it's more, being a nurse is not a job. It's a ministry. It's a calling. You know, I love the Lord for gifting me with the love to care for other people, and I've had positive experiences with the community here. You know, when it's a life and death situation, and you're in the ICU, and you're on a monitor, and the only thing you have on is a gown. What matters to me at that moment, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't see the skin color or the sex. I see a heartbeat or not. And the goal is whatever is best for the patient, because sometimes people are tired, like any other, you know, like just like how every day we rest. Sometimes we rest, and if my responsibility, and my responsibility as not just a nurse but as someone who is just a human and who has a soul and loves the Lord, was to make sure that I supported that transition or that life the best that I could, and the people that were surrounding that. So it was always important to me, not just to be with the patient in their life, but if they passed away, you know, especially if the family member, to let them go, to then, you know, see their spirit off with their family, and supporting of that as someone in community.
So you've been out in the protest movement since the murder of George Floyd. What has that been like as a Black mother?
As a mother, as a sister, as a Black woman, you know, I can't say that I watched that entire. I can't. Because I don't want to ever feel like that's normal, because it's not. I have a daughter, and I know that it's a little easier for me than it was for my folks. A little easier for my folks than it was for my grandfolks. But I'm the first in my generation to be born without starting school in segregation. And I'll be 38 next month. We haven't come that far. Not when millions of people can observe the execution by suffocation from a police officer to a Black man on his neck over and over. If we ain't gonna stand up for a better tomorrow now, then what are we doing? Wasting time. I have a child. I want it to be better for her than it is for me.
People got a lot of feelings about people coming out to protest So, since the beginning, there was a whole idea of who would actually be out there, and of all of the people that I've seen out there, some of the more active members of the Black community have been Black women and mothers, and they've been an encouragement for Black men to do any type of leading out here. So I guess the question that I want to ask is, because when I first met you, I remember the way that you were yelling into the crowd. So, what was it like, essentially reclaiming the space for Black people, like being a part of that?
Being a part of it, as someone who is just always, no matter what community I was living in, tried to be an active participant in the community, especially by way of working like in food banks, and as a healthcare provider, as a registered nurse. While we are still standing, while we still have time, while we are awake, these are the issues. They need to be addressed, not just even yelled at. We need to follow through then with it. I love the perseverance and the endurance that the civil rights movement had, that Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X had. It wasn't a couple of months and then the election, and then we were like, yay, and it's over. Well, this isn't done. This is far from over. Where the conversation stops at and where it needs to be picked up at is still about our reparations, our generational wealth, and our rights to full inclusion in the economy in which we built and that we are literally keeping afloat. Agriculture and the ability to grow cash crops. That's what they stole this land for. That's what they killed all the indigenous people for and pushed them out further and further. Is what they stole our African descendants, and each boat stopped back, like from Dominican Republic and Haiti and Jamaica and Cuba. Literally, the difference between each one of those islands and the Black American is nearly a boat stop. Just off. Right. To come over here, even South America, to work a field.
To make the money.
Right. Before there was currency, it was cotton, it was tobacco, it was sugar, it was trade. And as an active protester out here, I was like, our Black lives never mattered. Only when we were picking cotton did it matter. It mattered then because you needed to figure out how many niggas per acre, per seed time and harvest. Yeah. Conditioned our asses to work that field. But then later on, consolidate, having us working acres of land by ourselves. All that energy. It looks like football, NFL, looks like basketball, NBA. Yeah. It looks like that.
Which is slavery.
Which is,
that's slavery.
America. Somebody's got it right.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, and then later on, you put us all in concrete buildings in ghettos like Chicago, and then mock our behavior. You don't put a bunch of lions in one den. They get more respect for animals at the zoo.
That's right.
Got Sarah McLachlan singing for kittens and dogs. For a few cents a day, you can save them. But I'm saying, you know what? Whoa, right? Because the only thing you want to show on television and on the news is the scenarios that when it's at our worst or at our because it's for your ratings. It's
right.
It's a privilege for you to come out and film our oppression so you can make sure that Nabisco and General Mills and all and Nestle all get they little cut in between your segments, your prime time of your news. Somebody's got to get shot and killed.
That's all we are.
Right? Come on.
That's all we are.
We're not here for your entertainment. We're not your gigolo, your jigaboo.
That's You Malcolm X, he said that the most unprotected of us all is the black woman. And I think that watching black women out here in the protest movement, protesting, period, being an activist in any type of form, period, what is it? What is that like?
As a black woman,
do you feel that? Does that?
You know, that's why earlier we were interested. I thank God for He making me a black and a woman, because it pushes you to the spirit really quick. That's our safe place, and that's where we feel the most powerful. And that's exactly where I take it every speaking event that I was been blessed to be able to share. And every time I was out there protesting outside of dispensaries, and a lot of those times was by myself. I'm protesting outside of our work and the freedom of our men and women that are still in cages, incarcerated for the same thing that the white people out here are making possibly trillions of dollars off of. Like, former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, I want us to get not only abolished from slavery and just send us out, because that's basically what they're doing with the cannabis industry, removing us out of prison and then be like, yay, we let you out. Yay, look what we did for you. You didn't do that for me. You did that for yourself. So you can go ahead and really start making money off of stuff so you can feel better and pat yourself on the back. Look, if your granddaddy's daddy didn't put you up to this, just a couple of decades ago, it wasn't essential, and now since you selling it is essential, and you're gonna let us all out of prison and returning to no work. We kind of want our job back. And so, as a black woman that been not just protesting for our lives because they don't care, I've been protesting outside of our work. That's our freedom. That's our reparation. That's our generational wealth. That's our inclusion. That's our rest. That's our ability to buy land. It's now in the seed form. That's the 40 acres and the mule. See, as long as there's seed time and harvest, our God will provide. Because all this other stuff, this money, ain't real. Dollar ain't backed on gold, but it's about to be backed on the wheat. Letting you guys know right now, somebody's been praying and putting their foot down in this. And I need help because I'm by myself.
So you've been doing the Give Us Our Harvest. When I met you, after everything cooled down out there, you kind of told me what Give Us Our Harvest means to you. And, you speak about cannabis a lot, which is a big deal, especially because they're trying to make this, a free market for them to make money on right now.
And right, because we're really so poor as a nation.
Absolutely.
That we're about to start selling weed. I mean, that's our work. You took our clientele, our work, and everything else. Exactly. We showed you how to do it. I mean, you ever Give Us Our Harvest? Give Us Our Harvest is a prayer.
Like, what is it? What is it really? What is it concrete to you?
What is it to me? It is a prayer. It is me chasing the God that we say that we trust on the money. It is me. It is my relationship and my discovery as I've been reading the Word of God. Southern cannabis belongs to the people of color. The Confederate South, cannabis belongs to the people of color. Let's honor the land, the lives. Put a light to the darkness of the shadows that we still live under, this history of slavery, this colonized nation, and honoring God. Let us glean. Leviticus chapter 19, 9 and 10. When you reap your harvest, do not reap to the very edges of your field. Leave that for the foreigner, the poor, the fatherless, or whether I'm the Lord your God. 35 other states are illegal for either medicinal or recreational purposes, but the South is just now coming in. Mississippi just voted yes.
Do you think black people don't see any of that money?
They don't see it here. I mean,
Right.
like, I don't see it here in Colorado. There's only one black-owned dispensary out of 500. And her dispensary is one of the most gentrified areas of Denver. I mean, I love you, sis.
This is true. I've been down there.
Right. And then, our new Vice President, Kamala Harris, put a lot of black people in prison for marijuana, but used marijuana money to fund her victory from the only black owner dispensary out here. Ha, Wanda James and Kamala Harris. Now that you in the office, you had this MORE Act that you read up that the Senate just passed for the federal decriminalization, getting ready for the federal taxation while we still in jail. Oh, that's sick. You didn't learn nothing from history class. We repeating history. We can liberate ourselves. We don't need your nothing. You can keep your government, your Star Spangled Banner, your capital, and your everything else, and your flag, and your idols, your statues, your idols. Anything, all that stuff that God said He was against. You can keep your idols. You pledge allegiance to a flag. You can keep that. Your idol, your statues, go ahead. God, there's no place in the kingdom for your idol. Honor that God on the money. Let us glean. Southern cannabis belongs to the people of color. Let's give us a harvest. It's a prayer.
This vaccine, you gonna take it?
No. They just made it up yesterday. Like yesterday.
I'm not gonna.
I mean, no.
I think that one of the things that people don't understand when it comes to our community is how adverse we are to it, given history.
The thing is, we got to look up these people that are making these vaccination and look up like Pfizer, and then look up who their investors are, and see what they like to do for fun.
I mean, like, you're a nurse. You've been out here doing this, and you have a full nursing background. What does it mean to you to see them try to make us the face of this right now, especially when you know the history of how they've treated us?
That the thing is, since I'm not practicing as a traditional nurse at this time, but still practicing as a nursing community, we got to really pay attention to every little detail. We cannot be so caught up in entertainment. Like, we really need to pay attention to what we are inserting in our mouths, into our bodies, into our eyes, into our ears. All the things that is placed in this very intentional. You got to protect the light of your spirit, which whatever you speak and whatever you see, hear, your thought speaks out of your mouth. And we don't know what they are putting in. You don't think that this is not the same type of behavior that has gone on over time? Mm-hmm. Look up these people, like these companies that are making up these vaccines.
I say I'm at home and
I'm not saying vaccinations are bad.
Right. No,
but I am saying, especially since people are real bored and they're having a lot of sex making babies, you make sure that when they give these babies their vaccinations, that they don't give them in a cocktail all together. Right. You give them individual. You want to see which vaccine does what. So measles, one.
Yeah, because
mumps, a separate one.
Yeah, I know.
Make sure you give them the right, not the whole blend, because they're doing a lot right now. We're just, anybody that is really not about this forward push of movement of the inclusion portion is just not about their own lives. I'll just read it. I'm gonna have you read it, and we're just gonna have just a complete clear wake up, because you know what, we gonna be set free, and the truth will set you free. Because the thing is, they've been fed a lot of lies, and you know what it's like being told that somebody's not your daddy, like you are not the father. I mean, it's really, they're acting out. It's kind of cute, let them you you get it right. I mean, right? They just been told, right? They're acting out. They're taking our statues. They're standing in line. I mean, and then wake up.